Way I see it, there's basically two types of people. All stubborn guys like me. We may not like the hell that happens to us, but we deal with it. There are guys like you.
We're here with Brian Fleming from Sucker Punch, developers of Infamous and also Infamous 2, which we're here to talk about. First off, basically, what's happened since Infamous 1? What's going on in the new game?
Well, for players of the first game, they remember that at the very end of that game, Kessler kind of gave Cole this vision of the future, where he might have to someday confront this beast. And so Cole has got to ready himself for that, and this woman, Lucy Quo, convinces him that the way to do that is, in fact, to go down to this south of America and get this this guy named Dr. Wolf to give him additional powers, to basically amp up his own powers so that he's ready for the fight. But before they can go, the first confrontation with the beast happens, and Cole gets his ass kicked. And so they kind of fish him out of the water and rescue him, and they haul him off down there. And this is really a story about, you know, building himself back up. You know, he keeps a lot of those powers from the last game, but he really has to build them up because he just saw how brutally strong the beast is. So it's a story of this sort of ticking time bomb coming down, and can you be ready?
So the game is set in a new setting, this New Orleans type town. Besides the story reasons, how come you wanted to move the game to a new place?
Well, I think one of the fun things about a sequel or a new game is a chance to see new art, new aesthetic, new environments. And so it wouldn't have been any fun just to have more levels in Empire City, or to make a new city that was a lot like that. So we knew we wanted to go somewhere different. And the inspiration for going to the south was we wanted to have kind of a warmer climate, have more moisture in the air so that you had prettier sunsets, you know, more beautiful kind of atmosphere. And then we picked sort of the New Orleans inspiration really because of the diversity of architecture there. It wasn't just the same 5-story tall brownstone again and again. You have the French Quarter with very traditional European architectures. You have a swampy area with very organic, kind of mossy, lots of gnarled trees. Then you move to another area and you've got industrial kind of petroleum architecture, and it's those varieties that we really wanted to get after in this game.
You're doing a lot with user-generated content online for this game. Yes. Did you consider multiplayer at any point?
Yeah, I think any AAA developer worth his salt has had the co-op discussion and the multiplayer discussion, and we certainly had those conversations, especially after Infamous 1. And for us, we felt like the intellectual property, you know, that Cole and his power set didn't really work super well for multiplayer. We did talk about co-op a whole bunch, but in both cases we felt like neither were as innovative as trying to do the first sandbox game that had user-generated content in it. And that just really caught our eye. We really felt like that would be strong, and so we produced an internal, like a TV commercial for it. In the US, there's this series of ads with this guy named Kevin Butler, and so we made our own pretend Kevin Butler commercial pitching this idea, and we showed some, you know, mock-ups of how it would work, and we pitched it to Sony that way. And I don't know if it was the commercial that convinced them or the idea itself, but they were really excited. They were like, if you don't do this, you're making a big mistake. So they were really behind it. It obviously fits really well with the PS3. You know, everybody has a hard drive, so it could work. And I think that just it was good synergy with what they wanted with the platform and what we wanted to do. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, the beta is continuing, and we're certainly excited to see what users have built.
Some of our readers have been asking, the first game you fought guys mostly, yes, and now suddenly you're fighting monsters that are like 6 stories tall. Yes. What's going on with that?
Well, I think part of what we wanted to do was to make sure that as we're going to escalate Cole's powers, we have to make sure that there are appropriate enemies. And the second was, so we knew we had to have more powerful enemies. And the second was this desire to really capture some of that epic feeling that a modern superhero movie might have. And it's just difficult without those David and Goliath moments. You know, you need a giant creature or something really fierce to make Cole's struggle have more impact. And the combination of those two early in the development of Infamous 2, we redesigned our whole AI and pathing system to support these varying scales so that you could have, man-sized, even smaller, and then medium-sized, like, 4 or 5 meters, and then, 10 meters, 20 meters tall enemies all using the same AI and pathing systems that we'd put in the game. So very much it was kind of a combination to give the epic sense and also to meet Cole as his powers continue to grow.
Back when you announced the game the first time, Cole had a very different look than he does now. And the impact, the response from the fans of the first game was enormous. Did that surprise you, catch you off guard? Or?
It caught us a little off guard. I mean, I think that as a studio, we're really passionate about iteration on things. And, sometimes that gets a little bit ahead of ourselves on that. We love trying things and seeing how they go. And we convinced ourselves that we were going to give him hair this time. And, the fan reaction was not terrific to that. And we weren't dyed in the wool on it. It's not like we weren't interested in doing a game if you couldn't have hair. So I think that was part of, the learning process, making a game. We don't go into it feeling like, we're the auteur and nobody else's opinions matter. We care a lot about the fans of the game, and clearly this was one of the ones that didn't work for them, and that's fine with us. I mean, we had to rebuild Cole's facial structure for the game. His facial structure in the first game, the proportions and the positions of everything wasn't exactly right, and we needed Cole to emote much more subtly than he did in the last game because of all the motion capture cutscenes. So we were already in redoing the facial structure, and in this case, we also put hair on him, and that was a bridge too far. So,
yeah, but one of the things I really enjoyed about the first game is the sort of exaggerated animation movements of the characters. And you're going for a more natural look with the second game. That also looks good. Don't get me wrong, but what led to that decision?
Well, I think as we go about adding more fantastical enemies and more fantastical powers to the game, it's important to keep the game grounded because you don't want it just to turn into a circus. And so I think the attempt to take the animations and really ground them a little bit more is part of the give and take there of trying to keep the game still very believable, very relatable for customers. If we're going to go push the boundaries on the enemies and on some of the powers, we need to make sure we're not also taking liberties in other places. So again, his facial structure is much more realistic. The animation is more realistic. A lot of the motion capture work is of course very realistic, and even the in-game animations there's a much higher emphasis on the physicality of those being realistic.
A big point of the Infamous series is the good versus bad karma system. In the first game, the choices were sort of cut and dry. You had a pretty clear idea, or come across a guy, either I kill this dude or I do something else. But you're going in sort of different direction this time.
Well, there's two aspects to it. The first is, are the choices clear for players? And we've experimented a whole lot with different kinds of choices for players. And we do find that players get extremely frustrated when the choices aren't easily understood. It's essential that the choices are clear. What we've tried to do is make them clear and more kind of emotionally satisfying instead of this abstraction of, do I want to take this food for me and my friends or let the people have it, where food wasn't a major collectible in the game or anything. It was sort of abstract in the last game, and we've tried to make those choices more relatable for people so that you're choosing who you want to partner up with. Are you going to partner up with Nyx or Quo? And they have very distinctive personalities and points of view, and you can choose who to be with, and that's a little bit easier to relate to. But that's only one of the really important changes. I mean, you've got really fairly dramatically different paths that you'll take, so that the mission content is different, the ending is very different depending on which way you go, and hopefully it'll be a much more satisfying, not just first playthrough, but if you are enjoying that and you want to go the other way and play it again, you'll get a very different experience. The powers will be different, many of the missions will be different, the ending will be different. It's a lot different. So there's significant changes on the big picture karma stuff, and the story that I told earlier today I think is also useful. Is one of the things we've discovered after watching people play and looking at the trophy data from the last game is that people tend, once they decide to be good, they kind of make that same choice everywhere. And so one of the things we've really done is introduce these temptations where it won't destroy your playthrough, but we try and get whatever way you're playing, we try and give you something that's tempting, that's on the other side, because it adds dimension to your experience of like, well, I'm playing good, but I really hate that street musician who's really a crummy saxophone player, and I want to go beat him up. And so you can silence him, which is good. I mean, that's, you know, you should have those moments where you're just a little bit out of character, and I think that adds a lot of humanity to the experience.
When the game releasing, you're including 100 of the best levels from the beta, the user-generated levels. Meanwhile, Little Big Planet has hit 2 million. Yeah. Do you have a number where, you know, you pop the champagne?
You know, we would be thrilled if we hit 2 million. I don't think we really even know how to guess. You know, we're as interested as anyone at how many user-generated levels will be there. We're including any missions that people publish, but the ones we're featuring are those 100 that, you know, are our best guess at, like, these are some really great missions. And we'll see how it goes. We're as curious as anyone. This is our first time through, so I don't know if we should be rooting for, you know, 100 or 100,000, or I don't know what we should be rooting for. So
the user content tools compared to the tools you use internally, how powerful are they? How much can the player do, or the players do?
The tools are kind of mostly a subset of what we use, but there are some things that the UGC tools are actually better at than our tools. Our designers cannot believe how fast the iteration time is for the user tools, where they can edit the mission and then push play and it'll play right away, whereas on our tools you have to do a compile step, and, you know, it's sort of all this extra yuck between when you make the change and when it's running. So the iteration times, or what we would call the duty cycle between edit and play, is incredibly good in the user-generated tools, much better than our internal tools. And so maybe our next game will actually build big chunks with these tools because it's just better. The thing that, of course, we can do in our mission tools is we can write custom individual code, which, you know, we have this sort of, the way that everything is hooked up with these logic nodes is simpler, but it doesn't have this escape of I can write, you know, code to do whatever I want. And so there's a balance there. But we've been impressed by what people have done already in the beta. So you know, as we add features and content, I think it'll be pretty fun.
Do you carry over anything from Infamous 1 as to how the player finished it, with the save games or stuff like that? Is he good or bad at the beginning of Infamous 2, or?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the game, we will, looking at the trophies you've collected in the first game, we will offer you some options about how you want to start. And we haven't revealed the exact details of that, but clearly we want to reward people who finish the game, good or evil, with some additional benefit when you start the game. So absolutely, if you finish the game, you will get some benefits from that. And then, of course, you can always start off again as neutral and still have a very, I think, fulfilling playthrough, but there are some advantages to carrying forward.
Cole gets a bunch of new powers in this game.
Yes, he does.
And he's not just stuck with the electricity anymore, sort of. He's going, yeah, ice and flame or something like that?
Well, we never thought of it as being stuck with electricity, because electricity's been tremendously good to us, so we're very happy with electricity. But in the game, part of the plot that happens is that they discover this machine, kind of a powers transfer device, that has been used to take a person who has powers and to transfer those powers into someone who doesn't. And so the characters wonder, hey, what if I took two people with powers? Can we exchange some of our powers between us? And so Cole gets to try this with one of the other two superpowered characters in the game, Nyx or Quo. Nyx has kind of napalm, oil, fire-based powers, and Quo has ice-based powers. And so depending on which way you make that choice, you will carry forward some of their abilities in your arsenal for the rest of the game.
Okay, so finally, when do the rest of us get to play this?
June 8th, available here in Denmark, Sweden, Finland, actually all of Europe.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.